Today I'm going to walk through how to make a face frame and put it on the cabinet. Seriously, I can't focus. Typically, my face frames, and this is an upper cabinet, are 3 inches on the top, 2 inches on the bottom, 2 inches on the sides, and then 2 inches on any partition that we have. Since this cabinet is going to butt up to another cabinet and a wall on the other side, I leave a 1/2 inch hangover on the outside of the cabinet, so that way we can scribe the face frame into the cabinet. So if the other cabinet's not square or the wall is not perfectly square, then we can go ahead and we can cut, a piece off. The other thing that I do is when I have to put a cabinet up against another cabinet and a wall or 2 walls, I will put the face frame together, put it on the cabinet, and I will leave one side off. So that way, if maybe it's 3 inches here and it's 2 3/4 at the bottom, I can put the cabinet up and I can take my measurements, go and cut a face piece for it, and then put it on after we've installed the cabinet. And that'll kind of make sense as we go through. In order to get us started on building the face frame, I think I mentioned before, we're doing a 3-inch piece on the top, 2-inch on the bottom, 2-inch on either side, and then a 2-inch piece in the middle. In order to get my measurements, since this is butting up into a cabinet and this side's going to a wall, we're going to leave this side off until we get the cabinet installed, so that way we know exactly the size that we need to put there. It might be more than 2 inches, might be a touch less. We just don't know until we get out to the job site. On the right side here, we are going to leave a 1/2 inch overhang on this side. So we're going to come in 1.5 inches and then come in 1.5 inches on this side, take our measurement from those spots, and I know that that's 47 3/4. So I need a 3-inch piece that's 47 3/4. I need a 2-inch piece that's 47 3/4. Then I need another 2-inch piece that's 35 inches. And then I'll need a piece that's 35 inches as well, but again, I don't know yet until I get to the job site whether it's going to be 2 inches, 1 15/16, or it's going to be 2 inches at the top and 1 3/4 at the bottom, because the wall is wonky. And then we'll need a 2-inch piece for our partition here. In order to get that measurement, knowing that the top piece is going to come down 3 inches, and so we measure from the bottom of the cabinet up, we know that that's 30 inches. So we're going to need a 30-inch piece here. So now I have all the pieces that I need to cut. I'll go over to the table saw, I'll cut those, and then I'll trim them up at the miter saw, get them cut to length, and then I'll go over to the pocket hole machine and cut pocket holes in the parts that are running horizontally, here and here. We'll get those secured, and then we'll also pocket hole this guy once we start putting that in. If I'm cutting anything on the miter saw and it needs to be square, I don't know who cut the last piece, if this is just a remnant that was left, or if it's stock that we had bought. I always square up one side first and then flip it around and then cut my dimension. Once I got my pieces cut, we're going to put pocket holes in the pieces that are running horizontally. So the top and the bottom pieces that we're cutting for the face frame, we're gonna get pocket holes in the back side. Okay, so once I have all of my pieces cut, we have this old drafting table that we use. Works out well as a clamping table. It's got a big enough surface that we can do most of our face frames on this guy. We have a very similar table in our main shop, but works out well. So in order to put this guy together, we're gonna glue the side that has the pocket holes. That's a little more glue than I wanted to put on there. Okay, and then the key is to make sure that these are as flat as possible. So we'll get a clamp on there, make sure they're lined up, clamp it down, take 2 screws, drop one on the floor, grab another one. Okay, and then we're going to repeat that process on the other side. Again, once we have got glue on there, make sure we're lining things up, and then getting the clamp on there, get it nice and tight. Grab 2 screws, put them in. We've gotten the face pieces for the top of the cabinet, the bottom of the cabinet secured to the side, or at least one side. Like I had mentioned before, we're going to leave this side off. We will secure the whole thing to the cabinet, but we'll leave that one side off until we get to the job site and figure out what exactly we need. There is a middle partition on that cabinet, so we do have a face strip that's going to cover that part of it. In order for this guy to be centered within that opening, I measured, the opening from here to the edge here, which is 47 3/4, and then I subtracted 2 inches and then divided that number by 2, and so I get 22 7/8 is my opening. So I'm going to have a 22 7/8 opening on this side, my partition, and then a 22 7/8 opening on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and get this glued up on this side, and then we'll flip the guy, glue it on the other side. Glue everywhere. Okay, so I got 22 7/8 up there. I'm going to go ahead and just measure this guy as well. Make sure I get to 22 7/8. My clamp.
You might not be able to clamp that fast.
Yep. If that doesn't work, I'll bring out the big guns. All right, so now we're done. Sometimes I like to sand these before I put them on the cabinet, but you know, they seem to be pretty good. Sometimes you'll have a piece of wood that might be a slightly, you know, maybe a bit thicker. Even though we do plane these all down before we cut them, sometimes it happens. So now we'll take this over and get it lined up on the cabinet. Now that we have the face frame built, again, minus the one side that we're going to leave off, just want to make sure generally it fits. Once we start to fit it and put nails in it, then we can kind of move it just a little bit until that glue dries. Remember that this side, we're going to leave a half inch over, right? So I want to make sure I get that measured up, and I'm going half inch over. And then the way that these cabinets, you know, we build them, we try to get the face frame as flush as possible with the floor of the cabinet, but we also know that sometimes the wood's gonna bow a little bit, so we do our best to get them looking the best that we can. Then we come back with a flush trim router, and we'll trim this up and get it nice and flush, so that way there's no lip on the bottom of the cabinet. So I'll take the face frame off, I'll put glue down, and then we'll get it secured on the cabinet. I think I maybe mentioned in another video, it's always good to have a wet paper towel with you when you're doing this. That way you can do the cleanup. It's a lot easier to do the cleanup now while the glue is still wet than to come back after the glue's dried, and now you're trying to chisel the glue out without scarring up the actual cabinet itself. And this is pre-finished material. I don't use it a whole lot, so I generally don't want to scratch that up, because if I try to spray a lacquer on top of it to try to make it look good, I just don't know how it's going to turn out. It's probably going to look a little funny. And you want to grab me. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to try to get one corner square on there. And again, I'm just making sure that I have a half inch hangover. So it might be hard to see on there, but basically I'm just looking to make sure that I have a half inch hangover on this side. Once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and put a pin nail in there to hold it. I'm going to go on the other side of the cabinet. I'm going to make sure that the top side also has a half inch hangover. Pin nail that. And then since there's no side face frame piece on, I just need to make sure that this top is on, or has the same reveal on the top from side to side. And I know that that's a half inch there. So I'm just going to make sure I line this guy up to a half inch. Put a pin nail in there. And then just want to match this so it's nice and even all the way across. And I'm using just basically 18 gauge pin nails, 1.25 inches, or these might be 1 3/16 to put these on. This is paint grade material. The inside's pre-finished, but the outside is just poplar. And so I'm not worried about nail holes right now. We'll get those all filled, and then once everything's dry, we'll sand the top flat, nice and smooth, and then we'll do the flush trim router bit on the inside of the cabinet for the bottom, and then we'll get it ready for install. Once the cabinet is completely dry, we come back with our sander and sand everything nice and smooth. When we put the face frame together with the pocket holes and clamp it down, usually it's nice and tight and fairly smooth, but sometimes you have pieces that maybe aren't part of the same stock. They weren't planed down at the exact same time, so there might be a little bit of difference in the overall thickness. So once we get it on, we'll sand it, make it nice and smooth and ready for paint. Once that's done, and we already went through that process, unfortunately I didn't film the sanding, but I'm sure you're probably happy that you were spared that part of the video. Now I'm going to go and take my flush trim bit and trim up the bottom of the cabinet, the face frame that meets up with the bottom of the cabinet, the inside, to make it nice and smooth. So I'll tip it up. I'll see if I can focus in there to show you. So my goal is to get that lip off there, and what I have is my palm router with a flush trim bit, and I'll go through a process of just going across there, trimming it up, staying away from the corner, just enough where I don't bite into that corner. I'll clean that up with a chisel. So we'll go ahead and start that process. Turned out all right. All right, once I'm done with doing the flush trim bit, one of the last things I'm going to do before I take this cabinet out to get it installed is ease all of the sharp edges on here, so that way they accept paint a little easier. So I'm just taking a little 220 sanding disc and just going over it. Just a couple passes each time to get it nice and smooth. All right, and that is it. This cabinet is ready to go out and get installed and get painted, and should be good. Again, we leave this guy off, the part of the face frame off, until we get there. What's going to happen is this cabinet's going to get butt it up to another cabinet, and then this part goes to the wall. Just in case the wall, you know, kind of has a taper or it's got a bow in it, we'll measure various points from the face frame to the wall to see, you know, what I need to cut that guy at. And typically it's a little bit of a taper. It might be, you know, a 2-inch down to 1 3/4 at the bottom, or vice versa. And then I'll get that close, and then what I'll do is I'll get to the job site, I'll put that face frame up, and then determine whether or not, you know, the wall's got a bow in it or maybe a concave, and have to sand a little bit on the edge of the face frame so that way it fits nice and tight. And this will make sense. I'm going to have a video actually installing these cabinets, probably coming out in less than a week. So if you're interested in seeing the actual install of these cabinets, please subscribe, hit that bell, and watch for that video to come out in the next week or so.